Good afternoon. We're going to call to order our July 28th City of Palatka Commission meeting. We'd like to welcome each of you here. We're going to have our invocation by Dr. Robert Mills, Associate Pastor of First Baptist Church. Pensacola? Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
Dr. Mills, we ask you to lead us in invocation. Also, could you lead us in the pledge as well?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Let's pray. Almighty God, we gather here tonight with thankful hearts. I'm thankful particularly for your love and grace that surrounds us and envelops us in this community. I'm thankful for these men and women who give of their time and talents to serve on this commission, give the very best of who they are to give leadership in our community. I'm thankful for the employees of this city that give their very best efforts day in and day out to make this a better place to live. We're thankful for all the promises that you extend to us, and tonight we're particularly grateful for the promise that you've given to us that if we ask for wisdom, that you'll extend it to us. And so tonight we pray for wisdom for those who are going to be sharing and for those who will be making decisions. And above everything else, oh God, we pray that everything that is said and done in this place tonight might bring honor and glory to you. And it's in your holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Mills. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hill.
Here.
Vice Mayor Brown. Present. Commissioner Borum.
Present.
Commissioner Campbell.
Present.
Commissioner Norwood.
Here.
All members are present and accounted for, and you have a quorum.
Thank you. Has everyone had an opportunity to look over the minutes from the July 14th budget workshop and regularly scheduled meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor in a second. Is there any discussion? Questions called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We'll now move on to item 1 on the agenda, which is our public recognition and presentations. We've got 2 items up for presentation this week. First up, we're going to recognize all of our contributors for this year's July fireworks, 4th of July fireworks. The fireworks are also an opportunity for us to really present something great to our community. This year's fireworks were awesome. It really showed us overall with the things that were going on in our community throughout the state of Florida. It showed us what a close-knit community should be all about. We had blocks and groves of people throughout. The bridge was full. Putnam Countyans and Palatkans were all over. And it was just a great time for friends and family. And so we definitely want to make sure that we thank everyone who helped make that event possible. For some of our award recipients, we have a Distinguished Community Service Award. This certificate of appreciation is awarded by the City of Palatka Commission to the named person in grateful recognition for your support and contribution towards the 2016 4th of July fireworks. We're going to ask, as we call these names out, that the individuals would come forward, or representatives from the organization would come forward. First off is W. Nicholson Ainsworth IV, MD. Dr. Ainsworth. Angel's Diner. Badcock Home Furnishing and more. Bates and Hewitt Floyd Insurance. I'll get one in a minute. First Baptist Church of Palatka. We've got one. Appreciate you stepping up, Mr. Rupp. Thank you, sir. Florida Pest Control. Andrew Halesko from Passero and Associates. Master's Funeral Home. Palatka Daily News, we know they're here. Mr. Bryant. Richard Paroline. Century Termite and Pest Control. Getting worried that nobody got the memo. Robert E. Taylor, A1A Architect. Telstar Motel. United States Veterans Post 104. 5-Star Credit Union. Makes this go fast. H. Earl Wallace II, Land Surveyor. And Betty Willis and family. She's here. Let me bring it to you. After we finish, we're going to ask all our representatives to come forward, and we'll take a photo. We also have this award for our $500 pledgees. Ameris Bank, Palatka. Florida Power and Light. Hey, Mike's here.
I got the note.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Human Resource Development Services, HRDS. Great. Thank you very much. Palatka Gas Authority, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Riverfront Square Development, LLC. Rural Healthcare Incorporated, better known as Azalea Health.
So I can take that for them on the airport.
There we go. We'll pass it on. Thank you. Waste Pro USA Kids Zone sponsor. I got a message from Mr. Carl. He said he was going to try to make it, so we'll hold out if he comes in. We'll make sure we recognize him. We want to give a round of applause to all our contributors. And we'll send a message out saying that they missed our photo opportunity. And so again, when we'll take a brief break after this, and we'll take a photo of all our contributors that are here and the representatives that are standing in for them. Our second item as it relates to our recognitions is the retirement of a very special young lady who's been here for about 16 and a half years or so. She's in the back smiling, so we're gonna ask, before she starts crying, we're gonna ask Ms. Linda Lanham if she'd come on up at this time. We're also gonna ask Mr. Griffith if you come up along with those other two special young men in the back of the room.
You look like you're gonna hit me right now.
So we're gonna start. We'll start in the back with Mr. Chandler. We'll let you go ahead and maybe talk a little bit about Miss Linda. We're gonna limit. So this is gonna be. We're gonna turn it over to you.
Good evening, Ed Chandler, City of Palatka Public Works. I tell you what, I'm gonna miss Miss Linda very dearly. I mean, great person to work with. I mean, one thing about her, you don't have things right, she's gonna let you know. She don't mess around like that. So, but like I said, you will be dearly, dearly missed. It was a pleasure working with you. Thank you so much.
Sean.
Sean Ladd, City of Palatka Streets. I've known Linda probably 15 and a half years at least. She's like a mother to us. I'm gonna miss her.
Well, I haven't known you that long, and it actually makes this a little bit harder on me because you've been there for me recently, and I really appreciate that. But I will say this, she is a no-nonsense person. I learned that quick. I've only been down there for about 5 months, and she got me in line real quick. But you are, in my opinion, almost irreplaceable. You are the heart of Public Works. And I hope you do come around some, but don't come around too much. You deserve your time, seriously. So, with love, we wish you well.
Thank you.
Mr. Suggs.
Terry Suggs, City Manager. It goes without saying that there's certain people you come across in your career and at work, and there's those people that you'll remember for a long time. And it's been it's an absolute pleasure to have been able to get to know Linda in the capacity that she served with the City of Palatka at the Public Works Department, but more importantly, to get to know Linda as a person in the community. She was always willing to do what was necessary to get things done, not only here, but for her fellow community folks. She will certainly be missed. I've asked her on more than one occasion if she'd be willing to just hang around for a little bit longer, but she's got some children and grandchildren I think she wants to go and hang out with, but it has been an absolute pleasure for me in my short time here to get a chance to work with Linda and come across more good people in my career. And Linda, I hold you in high regard with all those folks. I've worked with a lot of people, but none are more passionate about what they do than you. Thank you so much for what you've done for this community for a long time, and thank you for what you've done for me in my short time here. Thank you.
And to the lady who takes every day and takes complaints on a daily basis, and takes them with dignity and does her job with pride. One of our first days going over to the Public Works Department, we got introduced to her. We got introduced to her work order system. And she really gave us a tutorial as to how the process works and how much pride she takes in making sure that everything's done in a timely fashion and that we meet the needs of people. And that's what this is all about. This plaque is presented to Linda Lanham, Public Works Customer Service Clerk, in grateful recognition of 15 and a half years of outstanding service to the citizens of Palatka, December 5th, 2000 to July 2016. City of Palatka City Commission, July 28th, 2016. Thank you for a job well done.
Ms. Linda, would like to know if you're gonna leave your institutional knowledge here with us or whatever. If you're gonna pass that on to somebody before you head out.
They didn't bring anything
Let's take a brief recess to take a photo with all our contributors that are present today. I want to make sure that we at least memorialize that today, and we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back and we'll have our public comments. So we'll take about a 3-minute recess. Everybody? Commissioner Moore still here?
I'll give you up from every side.
I knew it was gonna be one person. We're gonna call the meeting back to order. We will now have our public comments. Public comments are gonna be limited to 3 minutes. Anyone here for public comment, please give your name and address as you come to the podium. No action will be taken on the topics of discussion. Is there anyone here for public comment? We have one speaker card from Jim Padgett, Lift Putnam Incorporated. Please come forward, Counselor.
Thank you very much. My name is Jim Padgett. I live in South Putnam, 1622 County Road 308, which carries a Crescent City zip code. I actually live out in the boonies. I have an office across the street in the School District Administration Building, or I say I do. Lift Putnam Incorporated has an office there. So that's where I spend most of my time here in Palatka. I'm scheduled to reappear before you folks on September the 8th. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak very briefly tonight and then to come back on the 8th and tell you more about Lift Putnam, how it originated, what its mission is, and what we're trying to do, and what we think maybe you could help us with. Just a thumbnail sketch. Lift Putnam, Inc. is a charitable educational foundation that was formed here in Putnam County in the early part of this year. It is a 501c3 organization under the Internal Revenue Code, and its statutory mission is to assist our local students, for lack of a better way of describing it. Its general mission, our bylaws provide that it has an overall purpose of trying to lift the quality of life here in Putnam County. And the foundation feels that one of the most effective ways that we could do that is through a long-term plan whereby we help students, we help with student achievement, we help them perform better in school, we increase their graduation rates, we increase their ability to go on to college. For college readiness, I think, is the term that's used. And we're new, we're just out of the box, but our primary function, in fact, our exclusive purpose at this point is to raise money to allow 4-year-old students, 4-year-old kids, to go to pre-K or pre-kindergarten here in Putnam County. And very, very briefly, and I'm probably close to my 3-minute end, but we have a pre-K program in Putnam County now that's called, that is described as a universal pre-K program. That's the good pre-K program where kids go to school, they're transported to and from school by school bus, they are fed 2 meals a day at school, and they are given a full school day of academic and behavioral direction. The problem is, so this is pre-K, so it's not free. It's $160 a month. And anybody who has $160 a month can enroll, per student, can enroll their kids. As we see it though, the children, the 4-year-olds, who really could benefit the most from this program are kids that come from economically depressed areas, who come, frankly, from families that may be single parent or no parent. That really is not terribly relevant. But the point is they don't have the money or the resources to enroll these kids in the pre-K program. So the kids that are born, if you will, into poverty, born into the health difficulties that we're having in Putnam County, the ones that could really tremendously benefit from being in a pre-K program can't, for a variety of reasons, get in, and mainly it's economic. So what we're trying to do is to raise monies to provide a program where these needy children, these 4-year-olds, can be admitted to pre-K, and they can start school, in effect, a year earlier. That's the bottom line. They would have an extra year of preparation, if you will. And the thought is that over a period of time, with an additional year of preparation, children are going to perform better in school. They're not going to be as challenged. They won't be behind when they get to kindergarten. They'll do better on their tests. They'll do better on standardized tests. And if they do better on standardized tests, then the school grades will increase. And when school grades increase, the district grades will increase. And we suddenly, I shouldn't say suddenly, but we gradually will become, as far as the school system is concerned, maybe a little more attractive place for people to come and live. We all know that people, when they look at Putnam County, they think about bringing their families here or their businesses here. One of the things that they look at immediately, well, what kind of schools do they have? What sort of opportunities would there be for my family? What sort of housing? So we're focusing on education. And that's our pilot program, if you will. I know I'm beyond 3 minutes. I'll be quiet. I have circulated a narrative that we did about this problem, and it addresses what we're trying to do in a little more detail. I just thank you for the opportunity to come back on the 8th. Maybe I could answer some questions that you might have and talk to you in a little bit more detail. I will say this about Lift Putnam. We are an independent foundation. We do not work for the school district or the school board. We are semi-autonomous. We have office space in the administration building. That's a very gracious gesture that the school board has made to us because we need a place to hang our hat and to work. But we are an independent organization, and we are not controlled, if you will, by the school system or the Board of County Commissioners. We are autonomous. So, look forward to seeing you on the 8th. If you have any questions now, I'd be glad to try to answer them, but you probably want to wait till then. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else here for public comment? Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Moving on to item number 3 of the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Item A is to adopt resolution number 2016-1247, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest the development sales agreement with Anthony Harwell for 215 Dodge Street. B, adopt resolution 2016-12-48, authorizing the city manager and city clerk to execute and attest a supplemental joint participation agreement with FDOT, increasing the amount of FDOT funding to $334,200 and total project amounts to $640,900 for obstruction, tree removal, and mitigation at Palatka Municipal Airport, 52% FDOT, 47% FAA, 1% City of Palatka funding. C, adopt resolution number 2016-1249, confirming and accepting the rankings of proposals received for Palatka Golf Club and authorizing negotiations. D, grant permission to exceed allowable noise levels, close the street, and allow for outside service of alcohol for special events permit number 16-36, Bartram Trail Designation Celebration and Frolic, September 5th, 2016, from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Keep Putnam Beautiful and Bartram Trail Conference applicants, Marshall Marinella, agent. E, appoint Richard B. Stackpole to the Black Historic Preservation Board as a member with architectural experience for a 3-year term to expire June 2019. F, grant permission to exceed allowable noise levels for special events permit number 16-35, Florida Bass Nation State Championship on August 27th, 28th, 2016, from 4 a.m. until 6 p.m. Florida Bass Nation, David Driggers, applicant. Are there any items on the consent agenda that need to be removed?
A, Mr. Mayor.
Item A, are there any other items?
Item E.
Item E, I'd also like to remove item C as well. A, E, and C.
I make a motion that we accept D and D, B, D, and F, and we pull from the consent agenda A, C, and D.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second? There's a second. Any discussion? Questions? Questions called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item A of the consent agenda, adopt resolution number 2016-1247, 215 Dodge Street.
Mr. Mayor, handed out just before the meeting an amended version of the articles of agreement that appear within your agenda. The amendment is very minor. On the first page, it corrects the street address of Mr. Harwell, the vendee under the contract, the purchaser. On the first page, under paragraph 2, it also adds some language that basically allows the city manager to extend the deadline for completion of the renovations by an additional year if the city manager in good faith believes that there's good cause for that. And then finally, there's some blanks in the agreement. Page I guess it's the back of the second page, paragraph number 8, correct? It's proposed by staff that the first blank be completed by inserting the number 45,000, that the second blank be completed by inserting the number 60 days, that the third blank be completed by inserting the amount of 15,000. With this final addition, after the word agreement in the fourth line of paragraph 8, it says within 60 days of the execution of this agreement. At that point, the following language, but in any event prior to the commencement of construction. And those are the only amendments that we would seek to make.
And those amendments are agreeable with the other parties?
Spoke with Mr. Harwell on the telephone. I think he's here today. Didn't know he's gonna be here. We did not, he suggested or requested the change that's on paragraph 2. And of course, he'd like to have his address stated correctly. He's moved since we originally prepared the draft. I did not discuss specific numbers with Mr. Harwell in paragraph 8. Those numbers were basically submitted by staff based upon their assessment of the cost of the repair if it's perfected by a owner builder. It would be much greater if it were by, it's my understanding that staff believes that number would be much greater if it was being done by contractor and subs.
Mr. Harwell, do you wish to be heard on anything?
Anthony Harwell, 816 Oak Street. The original estimate in the first proposal was between, I don't have those numbers with me, but it was between 20-something and 30-something thousand. So I took the average of those two numbers to come to the third of the deposit. So in other words, I wasn't expecting the 40,000 and the 15,000. It was more like around 6,000 to 8,000.
What we've done, do you mind me explaining? And Mr. Griffith might want to come forward because he basically was instrumental in the first part of this project, maybe now still, but we were trying to, if you'll recall, you approved by resolution, us coming up with a device by which some properties that we had acquired could be basically put back on the tax rolls, and you essentially provided for a process whereby people could submit proposals as to how much they might be willing to pay for the property, or in this case, I guess it's given to them free, provided they repair it and put it back on the tax rolls. But you wanted some protection so that if we gave property away with the contingency that it was going to be repaired and put back on the tax rolls, that it was in fact repaired and put back on the tax rolls. Because that was what you're getting, that's what the city and its citizens are getting in return for giving property away. Property I think we acquired through foreclosures and some by gift or donations by people who had tax code enforcement liens and didn't want to mess with it, so they basically, in lieu of foreclosure or abatement proceedings, deeded it to the city, but it was in bad condition. This is one of those properties. Mr. Harwell's proposal was accepted, whereby he indicated if it was given to him, he'd fix it. So we tried to put together some provisions that would give you protection. Ultimately, we came up with all kinds of thoughts were voiced, a performance bond, et cetera, and this was the one that, because performance bonds are hard to get and some of the other requirements would have been onerous, an agreement for deed was the vehicle that was selected by staff to try to give the applicant a chance to acquire property with no upfront money, basically, if he agreed to repair it. The upfront money that's mentioned in paragraph 8 is basically your security that the property won't have any mechanics liens or anything attached to it if if it should not be repaired and you end up taking it back. So Mr. Griffith is the one who gave me the estimate of what he thought a cost of repair would be if done by owner builder. If done by subcontractor, he thought much more. And the agreement provided for a third of that to be put up front. Basically, building permits would be sought, and we would do the work in stages, so that at no time would there be more than that. No time there'd be more work in progress than the amount you had on deposit for security. So if something bad happened, you got security there to pay off the mechanics lien, and you can do it in phases. So that's what we came up with, and from there, if the project isn't completed in 15 months, it was to revert back to you. However, Mr. Harlow's request at that time, he'd be given some latitude there. We built in the extra year that Mr. Suggs could grant, and the rest of the document is pretty much aimed at facilitating what we understood your vision to be, which is let somebody acquire a house for nothing upon the grounds or on the contingency and condition that they fix it, put it back on the tax rolls. Thinking this one they have to live in it for a while too before they can sell it or do something with it. So from there, if there's anything you want to change, it's entirely up to you. It's a policy matter at that point. We have a vehicle in front of you, and if there's something in that you want to change, then please, you can take the lead in doing that. I have no way of assessing the value of the repairs.
Is the property on 215 Dodge Street, is that where it is? I really looked for where it was, I couldn't find it. I'll get what you say, you show me where it is.
Vice Mayor Brown, did you see the blue house on Dodge Street?
I think so.
Okay, yeah. With the tall grass? Yeah.
Were you on Dodge Street?
Yeah. I know where Dodge. Hey, Kirby and Dodge used to have our drug treatment place, and I went to meet there once a month, so I know where Dodge is. I saw 100 block and a 200 block, but I didn't see that number.
Any questions, any other questions?
What's the value of the property? How did we come up with the $45,000 on this?
And, Commissioner Norwood, we looked at this well over 18 months ago. Myself and the building inspector went through the property because at the time we didn't have the funds to have a full inspection of the property done. Limited fire damage obviously is going to need most of every trade to do work on the house. It's a little bit more than a renovation. It's a rehab, so we looked at construction means estimator and came up with slightly higher than $45,000. But knowing that Mr. Harwell put together a proposal that involved a lot of sweat equity, being an owner builder, we wanted something a little bit higher than what he was proposing based upon what we saw with our visible inspections. And again, that was 18 months ago, and you know what happens to houses when they sit, so it could be in a worse condition now.
Any other questions?
How critical is this to be passed now?
We've had this sitting on the agenda for quite some time. I think it was on the agenda probably either prior to my arrival or just soon thereafter. So Mr. Harwell has been ready to get started. So this is one of those items that we need to try to continue moving through the process.
All right.
We've gone through a number of different vehicles, and this was the last one. We've changed the concept pretty drastically to try to provide security and yet provide Mr. Harwell the flexibility to come in without a lot of money. So it's up to y'all.
Is there anything we want to put in the blank on number 9?
9 was the amount of insurance coverage that we maintained. And if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah, that's it.
okay. So, I mean, you know, I don't even know if you can insure the property right now. Do you think you can?
For a lot of money. They'll insure anything, just depends on how much.
Well, I mean, without paying the cost of the property insurance. So
Mr. Holmes, I haven't had a chance to look through the revisions yet. How many phases did you give Mr. Harwell?
Well, really, as many phases as he wants. My only, it isn't limited in phases.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, so long as he doesn't exceed the amount of the deposit, the concept is he'll need building permits to do work. So the concept was that when he applies for a building permit, there's a value placed on the work he's permitting, correct?
Yeah, what I was curious about is if we could lower the amount for the security and its building permit would have to be less or match that, and we could still keep the value of what we believe the total estimated cost to do the rehab the same.
Yeah, of course, if you do that, then putting a value on the cost of rehab doesn't really matter much, does it? Because the only reason we put the cost of rehab on there was so that 1/3 would drive the number to be posted. And I guess you want to say it that way, you could assume that as soon as you're going to do the 3 phases.
Yeah.
Because the last phase, he's able to take that money and draw it out and pay for it. So his first phase, he doesn't draw out the money. Second phase, he doesn't. But when he gets the second phase completed, he can pay for the stuff using the money that's on deposit for the 3rd phase. But it's just something I came up with. It's not, it's not magic. If y'all want to change it, you're more than welcome to.
And if I recall, there was conversation previously about the amount to be brought forward to kind of deal with the security aspect at one point. And my understanding, if I recall correctly, I think that amount was higher than the $15,000 original that we were talking about.
Mr. Harwell, did you ever propose an amount?
I thought it was like $23,000 that we talked about before.
Yeah, that was the low side of my cost estimate, and there was a high side, 32, 35.
But we were talking about you actually putting up money at one point in an amount that was in the 20s.
I don't recall that. That might have been the conversation, but what we ended up at was divvying it up in 3 phases, and the average of that high estimate and my low estimate. The whole idea is to get me in there and get me working, so I can. So the lower the initial, and I understand you need the security. The lower the initial for me would be better, even if it's 5 or 6 phases, because that we can go through that process, put it up to the 2nd phase, 3rd phase, 4th phase.
This is just an option, and I'm not advocating this, but you could leave the. Jonathan told me that he thought that if you had to hire contractors and go in there, you'd probably look at $70,000 to fix it. So we're knocking that down with the assumption that a lot of owner-builder work is being done. However, so I feel uncomfortable in taking the 45 off the table because that's 45 sounds like a good number. But if you wanted to change it instead of 1/3 of it to make it, I don't know, whatever number you want to, a 1/4 of it, I don't care. It's up to you. But he's going to be limited in his work on each phase to whatever that percentage is. So if you made it 1/4 of 45, then what are you looking at? Somewhere around $11,000 up, and then a 1/5 of 45, which is looking at 9, right? So
And if it's in the phases, then it's, that goes along with the amount of work I can do in each phase. So it all equals out in the end, I guess.
6 would be 9, wouldn't it? Matt, supposed to help on that stuff. Computer over there.
So you're going lower end versus the higher end, you're saying, instead of what you believe was 70 and we're going to 45?
Well, and I have personal experience with this, Commissioner Borum. When a homeowner puts a lot of sweat equity into the project, you can bring the cost down significantly. But then again, you have to take into consideration guarding the city's interest and what the purpose of this project was to have a good end product. So I don't want to, discount that too much. Does that make sense?
So if he had 60 days to finish, 60 days to come on.
Right, come with the amount. Or whenever he can get the amount, the amount has to be posted before he starts work.
And he had to have the house done in a year?
No. I think the original term was
15 months.
15 months with an additional 12 as an option.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move that we go with the core of the estimated cost of repair for and do it the 15, we do it the 3rd.
25%. There's a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
How does he feel about that?
Well,
He's got to do.
We got a motion on the floor
Okay,
at this point.
Go ahead.
There is no conversation. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion at this time? Questions called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries by 4 to 1 vote.
Now, this is.
Moving on to item C on the agenda, adopt resolution number 2016-12-49, confirming and accepting rankings of proposals received for the Palatka Golf Club and authorizing negotiations. Item C on the agenda, and I wanted to pull this item so that we could talk a little bit about the proposal, maybe just to touch on the bullet points of what the proposal is. Mr. Griffin?
Yes, sir.
You go over the rankings for
The rankings, the number 1 ranked respondent was Hearts Golf, the number 2 was Hampton, and the 3rd was Signet Golf. Mr. Weed respectfully withdrew his proposal at the presentation meeting with the evaluation committee.
And as it relates to the number 1 ranking, can you go through some of the highlights of that ranking?
Yes, sir. Hearts Golf proposed a lease arrangement with a revenue sharing agreement whereby the city would receive 20% of gross revenues and 10% of those revenues would be contributed to a capital improvement fund specifically for the course. They wanted to continue some of the relationships that we have currently, whereby the city comes out and helps with tree removal, tree cutting, assisting with inmate labor force approximately once a month, and some of the other maintenance items that we assist them with. They were going to take on all operational costs. The city would have to continue to pay the current equipment lease. And Matt, am I leaving anything off?
The operational costs included, that includes the operation of the restaurant as well?
It did, yes, sir.
And that's a $1 lease.
The only consideration, and 2 of the respondents during the interviews came forward, Hearts for Golf being one of those, they did not include a restaurateur or a resume in their proposals, but they did state that they had interested restaurateurs that they could bring forward during negotiations. It is important to note that we know this from USDA already, that the restaurant portion of the clubhouse has to be leased at fair market rate.
So that would be a second rental amount incorporated within the agreement.
It could be incorporated within, or it could be a separate agreement. In conversations with USDA, it doesn't matter to them so long as there is new job creation and a new business.
And we're also required to maintain, we're required to deal with the remaining costs that we have on the maintenance agreement.
Maintenance equipment lease.
Do we know what that amount is?
I can look it up, but I think that's the larger expense, maybe $35,000 a year, I think. I'll have to double check the budget.
They also requested that the city take on the utility costs associated with the pump that runs the irrigation system. Yeah, and that's included within the budget right now in a way. That's approximately, I think they stated $2,500 a year to go towards piping and irrigation repair associated with disposal of reclaimed water.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second on the floor by Commissioner Borum. Is there any discussion? Questions called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item E on the consent agenda to adopt Richard P. Stackpole to the Palatka Historic Preservation Board as a member with architectural experience for 3-year term to expire June 2019.
We'll bring that back in September.
To bring it back in September. Moving on to item number 4 on the agenda, presentations and acceptance of fiscal year 2014-15 audit and comprehensive annual financial report. Tina Robinson, John Rowe, Carter Riggs, and Ingram's auditors. Robinson.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Tina Robinson with Carter Riggs and Ingram of 906 State Road 19 in Palatka. And with me is partner John Rowe from also from our local office. As you know, we're presenting, we just completed the audit for the city for the year ended September 30th, 2015, and we're here to summarize those results. So what I wanted to basically focus on is what's the biggest change in your financial statements this year, and that is the implementation of the new accounting standard, GASB 68, which has to do with pension accounting. Last year, you had to implement 67. And that one also related to pensions, but it was just directed to the pension plan itself, and required some additional, quite a few new additional disclosures and additional schedules in the section called required supplementary information. But this year, we have an additional layer on top of that. So the effect is that your pension liabilities, which are based on actuarial estimates, are now recorded in the citywide financial statements and in the enterprise funds. So just like any other long-term obligations, this has to be also included and shown on your statements. In the past, you didn't have to show that. So if you were looking at page 1 of the citywide, in the section that's called non-current liabilities, due within 1 year and due in more than 1 year, those figures, that includes the pension liabilities, but you can't see the detail there. That's all of your debt and your pension and your compensated absences, other post-employment benefits. If you want to see the detail for how much is just related to pensions, then you could look on, first of all, on the schedule on page 29. Down 2/3 of the way on the page, governmental activities table there. The last item in that table is net pension liability. So the city has, for your governmental activities, a $5 million liability on your books now. Not in the governmental funds, so not in your general fund and not in any other governmental funds, but in the citywide statements that are accrual basis. And then on the next page, 2 pages further, page 31 is a similar table of long-term obligations. This one is with regard to the business type activities. And again, the last item there, your net pension liability, you have about $2.6 million of pension liabilities related to the enterprise funds. And then going back to page 1, again, just pointing out what's new there. You have some new account types called, in the middle of the page and then 2/3 of the way down, deferred outflows of resources, deferred inflows of resources. They're separate from assets and liabilities because the Accounting Standards Board decided they don't meet the criteria for either of those. So they're new account types. And these two are pension related, so some rather large amounts there, particularly on the outflows. But those deferrals, there's also detail on that within your statements. It happens to be on page 39. But that's all of that figure is applicable to future periods, so it'll be amortized over the years. None of these, the liabilities nor the deferrals, are hits within 1 year. And then in the footnotes section of your audit book, note 8, which runs from pages 33 to 41, You'll just notice if you were comparing to last year that you've got probably about 2 more pages longer than you had last year. And some of the new information that's included there in those disclosures that has to do with the pensions is your city and gas authority figures on page 35. The city and the gas authority figures are separated so that you can see exactly what the city liability is versus the gas authority. And it's about almost an 82% to 18% proration of the overall general pension. On page 36, there's just some new disclosures on target allocation for your long-term expected rates of returns. And on 37 are new tables to show the changes in the net pension liability for each plan. And I've already mentioned about the detail for the deferred outflows and inflows. That's additional information. In order to implement this standard, what you had to do, since it's not just a fiscal year 15 liability or deferrals, you had to restate your opening equity balances. So your note 14 that's on page 45 restates the amount that belongs to the prior to fiscal year 15. And then let's go back to page 1. The bottom line effect to your citywide statements is that if you look at the very next to the last row, actually, on page 1, you have your unrestricted net position or your unrestricted equity, and you'll see in the first column for governmental activities that you have a negative balance. So that impact is from this pension liability now being recorded, has thrown the equity into, the unrestricted equity into a deficit. Did you see that? Okay. In the second column on that same page, the business activities is, to a lesser degree, you also have a negative impact of $439,000 unrestricted. So all governments really are going to see this type of decrease in their unrestricted balances. Some are going to go into a deficit like yours did, and some were just going to be decreased and be much smaller than they were before. And we'll talk a little bit more about the deficit on the city when I get to some of the other reports. Then let's talk about the normal reports. If you look at our auditor's report, which is in Roman numeral pages 7 through 9, that gives, actually page 8 at the top, gives our opinions overall on your financial statements. And we say there that your financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects, and that's covers each of your 8 opinion units. The new paragraph just below that, called Change in Accounting Principles, just states that you did properly implement the new standard, GASB 68.
That's on Roman number
8.
8.
Not 8 in my.
Give for a certificate of achievement on 8.
Not Roman number 8.
I'm sorry, page 13. You're right. No wonder you weren't seeing it. So I was talking about the opinions there, the top 2 paragraphs, pointing out those. And you'll also see the opinions again referred to on page 89, which is a summary. Back to the numbers where we don't have to worry about Roman numerals. The first paragraph there just refers back to that auditor's report that I mentioned. On paragraph that's numbered 2 on page 89, we refer to our findings on internal controls over financial reporting, excuse me, which are stated in further detail starting at the bottom of that page where it's numbered 2015-001, and it continues to the next page. So you have those conditions that we reported this year had to do with material adjustments to the statements, but they were confined to one particular area, and that was some of the deferrals. The bank balances not being completely reconciled, which in part is due, what we believe to be due to software issues. 04 is where we feel like certain controls should be strengthened, and we believe some of those are already now in place, and maybe both. And that is to, check the invoices to make sure that there's no overlap of services stated on the invoices, and then also to look at the integrity of check sequences, just to make sure that those are all falling in the proper sequencing. And 05 is segregation of duties, which, again, I think this mainly occurred because you had a shortage of staff, really, during at least part of last year, where you had reduced staff. And so some individuals had to cover for more than their normal responsibilities. And then the only other one is back up to number 2. You did have an immaterial over expenditure of your budget on the Better Place plan. So on 89, again, continuing in that summary, paragraphs 4 through 6 have to do with your grants. And there we did state that there were no significant deficiencies found in internal control over compliance with regard to grant requirements. So you had a clean opinion on that. And in the middle of the page, you can see what your major grant programs were this year. Those 3 that are numbered there: rural business enterprise grants, highway planning and construction, and the aviation. Back to general budgets, they're on pages 47 and 48. You were well within your approved budget for the general fund and also your downtown redevelopment fund. And I did want to point out the downtown redevelopment fund a little further, because you are required by the state to have a separate opinion on that special revenue fund. So that one carries a cumulative fund balance as of 9/30/15 of about $586,000, and that's really an increase. It's about $117,000 higher than the prior year. Your increment funds this time were expended, totaled about $147,000 plus $128,000 in transfers. And those were for things like the Main Street manager that you still had up through about May, business improvement and home improvement grants that you awarded, downtown events, the Small Business Development Center, and sign poles. So those were the types of things you had in 15. And then just a couple other things. During the year, you incurred no new long-term debt except for your capital leases, and that was for police vehicles and sanitation truck. On page 80 is the beginning of the other reports required by the State Auditor General. And in this management letter, the financial condition paragraph, we are required to look at whether the city falls into the condition of financial emergency or deteriorating financial condition. And we did determine that you do not meet either. So you're not in a financial emergency, you're not in the deteriorating financial condition by the definition in the Florida statutes. We did want to bring to your attention some things that you should continue to watch. And one is that your general operating reserves of the city are sufficient right now to cover about a month and a half of general operating expenditures in the next year, which is actually slightly higher than the year before that. But the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, does recommend your goal to be 2 months' worth. So you'll still be working towards that. And then we point out here that your partly due to delayed timing of the grant reimbursements of about $780,000 for capital projects, plus the aggregate deficit that was due to the pension liabilities. So, you know, you had some additional negative balances in the unrestricted. So across the city-wide, the total net unassigned and unrestricted were negative for the year. But then those grant reimbursements that you received during fiscal year 16 helped to cover that. There were no prior year findings, so there in the whether or not you corrected prior year findings is you didn't have any. There is a separate report on page 84 that has to do with the investment statutes 218, 415 that we're required to report on separately, and we did state that in our opinion you complied in all material respects with that statute. And then separately you would have received a letter that is our required communications, and it covers a lot of what I just talked about now. I mean, not everything there, but it touches on some of those things. Also talks about our responsibilities and the scope of the audit, and your responsibilities, and then also points out the most significant estimate and disclosures this year is the pension. So this concludes my report, but you know, I do want to say, as always, I do appreciate staff being very cooperative and helping to provide the information that's needed for the audit. And yeah, can't get it done without that. So if there are questions, I'd be glad to take those.
Who sets the scope for the audit?
It's set really under the standards, but it's also defined in our engagement letter that the purpose of this audit is to audit your financial statement balances and disclosures to make sure they're in accordance with GAAP, and so that you comply with the Florida statutes that require you to have that annual audit. So it's very different than an operational audit, you know, that's conducted by the state.
And I know we should be paying attention to our reserves and all, but is there any other findings that you have, that you found, that is a risk for the city at this point?
None that, I mean, none that come to mind, and, you know, because anything that's significant we would have put here that would have been present to you in these findings. You know, as always, we usually mention, you know, the golf course, and I know that's, you know, that's something that you're looking at very closely now. You've gone in a different, or you've actually taken steps to try to remedy that situation, but that one again had a loss. Right.
Yes. Motion second. The floor is under discussion. Questions called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
We'll now move into our public hearing. Item number 5 on the agenda is the 2016 trim calendar resolution setting the tentative millage rate for 2016-17 budget year at 6.9967 mils proposed.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Palatka, Florida, adopting the tentative millage rate of 6.9967 mils for the levying of ad valorem taxes for the fiscal year 2016-17 and providing for an effective date.
So moved.
The motion on the floor? There's a motion on the floor. Second. Mr. Reynolds.
This is required by the state, and we have to follow what's called a trim schedule, and it starts on July 1 when property values are certified by the property appraiser. We have 35 days to set a tentative millage rate, and what the city can do is we can set the tentative millage rate later in the year, we cannot approve a final millage rate that's higher than the tentative millage rate, but we can go lower. And so the reason that the tentative millage rate is the same as the current year millage rate is because we wanted to make sure that, or we wanted to ensure that fire assessment fee will be able to be collected via the uniform collection method, which is on the tax rolls this year. If for some unforeseen reason we can't get it on the tax roll, then we're going to have to estimate that we'll collect a lower amount. And if we do that, the millage rate needs to be higher to offset that. So everything so far, all indications are that we're going to be able to use the uniform collection method. However, this is just kind of a fail-safe, gives us a couple more months before we have to finalize it in September at the lower millage rate that we were proposing in the budget workshop earlier. So.
We'll open the floor for public hearing. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Any further discussion? Questions called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right.
Item number 6 on the agenda, public hearing, 2839 Reed Street. Planning Board recommendation to annex and assign intensive commercial zoning to property. Julio Pena, owner, Palatka Building and Zoning Department applicant. Item A is annexation ordinance, first reading.
An ordinance of the City of Palatka, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Palatka, Florida, certain adjacent territory identified as 3829 Reed Street, located in Section 2, Township 10 South, Range 26 East, Public Records of Putnam County, Florida, contiguous to the boundaries of the City of Palatka, and providing an effective date.
Motion on the floor in a second. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Any discussion? Questions called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item B, zoning ordinance, first reading.
An ordinance of the City of Palatka, Florida, providing that the official zoning map of the City of Palatka, Florida be amended from Putnam County C2 Commercial General Light to City C2 Intensive Commercial for parcel identified as 3829 Reed Street, located in Section 2, Township 10 South, Range 26 East, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
Motion on the floor in a second. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Any discussion? Questions called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 7 on the agenda, 7000 Old Wolf Bay Road. Planning Board recommendation to annex and assign neighborhood commercial zoning to the property. Mockingbird Properties, the owners, Palatka Building and Zoning Department applicant. Item A, annexation ordinance, first reading.
An ordinance of the City of Palatka, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Palatka, Florida, certain adjacent territory identified as 7000 Old Wolf Bay Road, located in Section 9, Township 10 South, Range 26 East, Public Records of Putnam County, Florida, contiguous to the boundaries of the City of Palatka, and providing an effective date.
Motion on the floor in a second. We'll now open the floor for public hearing. Is anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Any discussion? Questions called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item B, rezoning ordinance, first reading.
An ordinance of the City of Palatka, Florida, providing that the official zoning map of the City of Palatka, Florida be amended from Putnam County AG Agriculture to City C1A Neighborhood Commercial for a parcel identified as 7000 Old Wolf Bay Road, located in Section 9, Township 10 South, Range 26 East, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
There's a motion on the floor in a second. We'll now open the floor for public hearing. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, close public hearing. Any discussion? Questions called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 8 of the agenda, 300 North 19th Street. Planning Board recommendation to annex and assign intensive commercial and single-family residential zoning to the property. Clay Electric Cooperative Incorporated, the owner, Palatka Building and Zoning applicant.
An ordinance of the City of Palatka, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Palatka, Florida, certain adjacent territory identified as 300 North State Road 19, located in Section 2, Township 10 South, Range 26 East, public records of Putnam County, Florida, contiguous to the boundaries of the city of Palatka, and providing an effective date.
So moved. There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Norwood, and a second by Vice Mayor Brown. So now open the floor for public hearing. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Any discussion? Question call. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item B, rezoning ordinance number 1.
An ordinance of the city of Palatka, Florida, providing that the official zoning map of the city of Palatka, Florida be amended from Putnam County IL, Industrial Light, and C2, Commercial General Light, to City C2, Intensive Commercial, for a parcel identified as 300 North State Road 19, located in Section 2, Township 10 South, Range 26 East, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
So moved. Motion on the floor in a second. We'll now open the floor for public hearing. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we will close public hearing. Any discussion? Questions called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item C, rezoning ordinance number 2.
An ordinance of the city of Palatka, Florida, providing that the official zoning map of the city of Palatka, Florida be amended from Putnam County IL, Industrial Light, to City R1A, Single Family Residential, for land fronting Stillwell Avenue and lying between 110 and 200 Stillwell Avenue, located in Section 2, Township 10 South, Range 26 East, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor in a second. We'll now open the floor for public hearings. Anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Any discussion?
Question.
Questions called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 9 of the agenda, amending chapter 42, article 3 of the Code of Ordinances, burglary, panic, duress, alarms to comply with Florida HB 535, first reading.
I'm sorry, that second reading and adoption.
The order.
It was advertised that way in the newspaper, and I apologize, that was my mistake.
It was advertised as second reading and adoption.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, wrong one. Never mind, yeah, first reading.
Okay.
No, we're on the next one.
Number 9.
An ordinance of the city of Palatka, Florida, amending the Palatka Code of Ordinances, chapter 42, article 3, burglar, panic, duress alarms, to provide section 42-79, use of licensed contractors, and section 42-90, alarm system fees and fine schedule, to comply with provisions of House Bill 535, governing alarm system registration, providing for severability and providing an effective date. Motion to approve.
There's a motion on the floor. The second. Now open the floor for public hearing. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, can we have the land director come up and actually tell us what the actual change is in the, so that the public will understand what's actually happening with the police department?
This was
Chief Shaw, I'm sorry, Chief, but the public will understand what's going on.
Jason Shaw, Police Chief. The change in this ordinance is basically where we are not not allowing law enforcement or enforcement actions on non-ordinance or non-registered alarms. So we can no longer collect on non-registered alarms through our agency that collects our false alarm fees.
Any further discussion? Question. Questions called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 10 of the agenda. An ordinance amending chapter 2, division 6 of the Code of Ordinances to add a defined contribution component to the firefighters retirement plan, second reading.
An ordinance of the city of Palatka, Florida, revising chapter 2, division 7 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Palatka, Florida, entitled Police Officers Retirement Plan, to add a defined contribution component pursuant to the requirements of Florida Statute 185-356, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
So moved. Motion on the floor in a second. Is there any discussion? We will now open the floor for public hearing. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we will close public hearing. Any further discussion? Questions? Questions called? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 11.
An ordinance of the City of Palatka, Florida, revising Chapter 2, Division 6 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Palatka, Florida, entitled Firefighters Retirement Plan, to add a defined contribution component pursuant to the requirements of FS 175.316, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
So moved. We got it back.
I can get it backwards, yeah. Yeah.
Is there a motion?
Yes.
And a second.
Motion on the floor, the second. Now, before the public hearing, does anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we will close public hearing. Any further discussion? Questions called, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Administrative reports. Mr. Yule, Mr. Crowe, Chief Lambert, Chief Shaw, Mr. Reynolds.
Couple things. In regards to the auditor's report, the last 3 pages, I know Tina mentioned the findings, but we actually have to do responses to the state auditor general, and my responses to the findings are on those last 3 pages, so you can review those. And the other thing is, she mentioned the engagement letter when she was talking about the engagement for the auditors. If Commissioner Norwood and Commissioner Brown, you may remember a couple years ago we established an audit committee, and each commissioner appointed somebody to the audit committee. As of June 30th, 2 of those people that were on the audit committee, their term expired. The auditor's engagement letter also, it covers the current fiscal year that we're in now, so our audit will be covered through when the auditors come this winter and, you know, going into next January, February for this year. But I want to get ahead on that, and in order to do an RFP for the auditor, it falls under a state statute, and that's the reason why we created the audit committee itself. Within the resolution, it states that the commission can serve as the audit committee, or the commission can appoint people to an audit committee. So I just wanted to get direction from the commission before I go ahead and start preparing an RFP for next fiscal year, which we won't be doing an audit on it until next winter. But I just wanted to get, you know, ahead of the curve before we prepare the RFP. I need to take that RFP in front of the audit committee for them to approve it, and then for us to go ahead and send it out. So just wanted to get the commission's there were a lot of people on it. Jim Neshawat was on it. Gretchen Lunsford, the president and CEO of First Coast, was on it. Judy Wimberly was on it. Jeff Elledge, and who's the 5th? I'm forgetting somebody. Jim, Gretchen, and who was the 5th one? Jeff Elledge. Miss Lookadoo? I don't think she was on. No. No. Sorry, I'd have to look it up. But if the commission wished to continue the audit committee in that form or fashion, I would look up. You know, it's based on the whatever commissioners assign those 2 people that their term expired. You know.
Whose term expired?
It was 2 members of the audit committee, and it was based on commissioners. I'd have to read the resolution. Group 2 and 4, I think, whoever holds seat 2 and 4, their appointees had expired.
I'm on 4.
So I think it was 2 and 4.
Right.
I suggest that the commission serve as the audit committee.
Okay, so I just wanted to get you know, a consensus of the commission on that, and if that's the case, I could bring a resolution back stating that the commission will serve as the audit committee, and so then we won't have to appoint anybody else to the audit committee itself.
Before we move there, can we get input from the rest of the commission?
How did was the audit committee, when they functioned, were they Was there an attendance problem?
No. Really, we're required under state statute to form an audit committee to select an auditor. We're required to, by statute, to do that. So that was the basis of establishing the audit committee. Audit committee met, reviewed the RFPs that we received, really kind of RFQs that we received for auditing services, and they recommended Carter, Riggs and Ingram, who we have now. And so we did that, I think, in 2013. And so their engagement letter was for 3 years. And so the audit committee can serve other functions, such as reviewing the audit, but ultimately it comes to the city commission as well. But the sole purpose of creating the audit committee was to select an auditor, because we're required to under statute.
Did the audit, individuals on the audit committee, do they wish to continue to serve? Or?
I haven't spoken to all of them in a while.
Just done anything in 3 years.
Yeah, because
there hasn't been an opportunity for them to reconvene.
Yeah, because we strictly utilize them to select the audit.
So it's,
Yeah.
So it's a little different than saying we're kicking people off the committee.
Right.
We've got a committee that hasn't convened in 3 years.
Yep.
And my recommendation is based on the fact of where we were last budget year in proposing to have to set up our own audit prior to the gracious gift from Tallahassee.
Operational audit, yeah.
I just think that it's the comments that we previously had from the commission is an opportunity for us to move forward with that on our own. And then we can always take the liberty of reappointing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the resolution allows for that. And the only change that would be needed was I could draft a resolution that states that the city commission would serve as the audit committee, and then we would be fine with moving forward with auditor selection.
I think it's a big issue one way or the other to me.
No.
So need some direction.
Consensus that will commission will serve?
Yeah, we will.
All right. Very good. That's all I have.
Mr. Holmes.
Just briefly, had conversations with the bond company representative regarding boat number 1. Mr. Cunningham is promising boat number 1 by the end of August or first part of September. I said he's promising. I did it here with Tony.
What year?
Supposedly this year. So that is the update from the bond company. He has given them his assurances that he is working on the boat diligently and that it will soon be ready.
Which creates another concern. Boat test and operation. Topic for another day. So, Ms. Brown, please reserve your comment. It's duly noted what the response is going to be. So, Ms. Driggers. Mr. Suggs.
Just a couple things. One is I sent out an email a week or so ago. We've got an issue with our general pension board with membership as it's currently written in the ordinance. If the commission will be so kind as to send back maybe some general directions how you would like for us to approach that, whether or not we want to just take the requirement and kind of mirror the same ordinance as the fire department and the police department, and have at least, I guess, it's 2/3 members approve the appointee, and remove the requirement of a residential requirement. Please give me some direction on that if that's what you'd like for us to do. If not, we'll have to go back to the drawing board and come up with some type of a new plan. And we'd like to get that in front of the commission for first reading in September. And so we don't fall short on our requirement for a quorum at the next budget review, pension review, I should say. So if you would, please just review your email and send me some comments. I appreciate it. And we'll move forward on that. And the only other thing that I have, I've kind of mentioned to some of you in passing about the opportunity to look at bringing in a second tier type of retirement system to the city of Palatka. Not replacing the one that we have, but offering a second tier, which would be like a Florida retirement system. That gives us an opportunity to expand our applicant pool tremendously throughout the state, and give us an opportunity maybe to bring some folks in here that has some experience that we could use. There wouldn't be a cost factor to the city. Just currently researching it with Tallahassee. I've gotten some information in. It doesn't look like it's going to be an issue for the city to continue with the pension plans that we currently have in place, as well as put an additional plan in place. So it wouldn't be a monetary issue, but what it would be would be a positive opportunity for us to reach out to folks, throughout the state when they have an opportunity for a position within the city of Palatka. So I'd like for either consensus or at least some approval for me to continue that research and then bring it back to you folks in September.
You have it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Brown.
You told me to hold my comment.
No, that was earlier. That was earlier.
I just look forward to seeing all of you at our convention, and hope you get a lot of information to bring back and help us.
Well, you get laughter from the Rockefeller Center.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can I expand on the comment, please?
You've already expanded.
Yeah, but these young folks have been here, all evening, and this is an opportunity. And I don't want to steal Commissioner Campbell's thunder at all, but I would like to say that from first blush, from the opportunity to reach out to our youth and have this youth initiative with these fine young folks, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. They have really stepped up and have done well. I get great reports. Mr. Sessions and Ms. Ware is working over at Planning and Zoning. And from what I understand, they're doing a fantastic job over there. I hear that every day. We've got Ms. Lee working in the police department, and Chief, I get great reports every day. Mr. Wiggins, who was absolutely the quietest one in the bunch, has been working over at the River Center doing meet and greet, and from what I understand, he is doing a phenomenal job over there, And Ms. Glantz is working here at City Hall, working with Ms. Susan, doing some filing in the back, and I tell you, they have done an exceptionally great job in every department, and it's been a huge success, and that's why it was important for us to get that $20,000 into the budget for this coming year to continue this program, because this is an excellent opportunity. You guys are doing great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
On that note,
very great report.
On that note, Commissioner Campbell.
Just going back off that, we thank you for your willingness to serve. Mr. Wiggins actually stepped in and assist. His first day officially was the day that I did the adventures with Commissioner Campbell over at the River Center. So I appreciated you coming in on short notice and assisting what we had going on for that. Kudos to PAL and the 207 Burners for a successful backpack giveaway. They actually have plans on doing a mid-year backpack giveaway that will be just before going back to school after the Christmas holiday, which is good. Thank you to Attorney Holmes for giving me the opportunity to go out and have dinner with the boys and Mr. Ken Johnson at the boys' ranch. It was definitely a humbling experience, and one that from that day I just had a whole new perspective of life. And I look forward to personally building a relationship with the boys at the boys' ranch, and you can see the passion that Attorney Holmes and the rest of the staff have working with the boys. And you can see the love that the boys give, and just to see them do what they do, it was definitely a humbling experience, and I'm forever grateful for that opportunity to go out. And that is it.
Mr. Board.
Just got a quick update on the captioned in there, I saw project update. Are we just putting landscaping, approval,
Quite frankly, I don't know exactly where they're at. I haven't had an update from Mr. Patel in a while. I believe the landscaping and all is fairly much in and completed. So I do know they were still moving some furniture and all that, so hopefully it'll be open soon.
I just saw that in the update from Jonathan, so I just trying to figure out what was going on.
They're waiting on the blind.
Yeah, they got it. It's on.
Wait, no, okay. That's all I have. That's all my question I have.
I promise you I don't control the mosquitoes.
You don't know.
They said you do.
Lord knows I
You
don't.
everything else, so you might as well enjoy it.
That's all I have.
Sorry, Commissioner Moore.
It's in this report, and
Yeah.
We got it.
I blew it up so y'all could read it.
Right.
So, I think they're just waiting on opening date from Hampton.
Yeah.
From Hilton. And once they get that, then they control whatever their opening date's gonna be. It comes directly from the hotel chain. Commissioner Norwood. We're adjourned.
That's the first.